YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after Sunday's action in NFL Week 7. Here to recap it, give you my takeaways. Probably the craziest Sunday football I've ever seen. There's some wild games. There's some games that will be remembered for a long time. Some games, even though they may have been wild, I really don't. I guess one of them, I really don't like how it ended up. We'll talk about all that, but yeah, a lot to go over. A lot of interesting takeaways. A lot of strange games, I'll say, at the same time being wild. We do this video every Monday. We have power rankings every Tuesday, straight up picks, score predictions, plenty of videos covering the NFL. Trade deadline's coming up. We've already kind of covered that with videos, but more to come, of course. Trying to reach 60K. So if you like the content, please subscribe, turn notifications on, be much appreciated. We're getting really close to that, so really appreciate the support. Follow that Twitter, constantly talking NFL, talking during live games. A lot that I say on this video is already said on Twitter. Monday night game, Bears, Rams. I'm ready for a defensive game. We'll be talking during that game on Twitter. Instagram, podcast, Patreon, check it all out. That Patreon has a bunch of extra content. Junior is killing it in picks this year, and he has his score predictions on the Patreon. My bets of the week, against the spread over-under, and I do the same thing for college football. Against the spread over-under, if we have any money line, score predictions for top 25. Big Ten football is going again. It's fantastic. Updated playoff predictions for the NFL every week. We change those. Bonus content, Discord access, always adding more. I mean, what a game to start with here. The Lions and the Falcons. The Lions will win 23-22. This is one of those games, I was talking about in the intro of this video. Wild game, very entertaining, but I didn't like this game. I didn't like this game the way it happened. I think one of the weirdest finishes in NFL history. And the reason I say that is because how a team won this game. What I kept thinking about was Todd Gurley tried not to score, and then ended up scoring on accident, and the Lions let him score. We've seen that here and there in the past in the NFL, teams letting a guy score. But I don't think we've ever seen it really work out. So the Lions won the game because they let a guy score. I was kind of just thinking about, what if somebody was watching football for the first time? What if you got like a friend who, okay, you got to get into football. It's great. And this was the first game they've watched. They'd be so confused. Like, that's how football works? That's the way I think. I don't know. Credit to the Lions. Matt Stafford clutched up, pushed the ball downfield. That arm strength is ridiculous. Kenny Golladay, absolute monster. I've been a fan of him since NIU. He's making himself a top 5 wide receiver, really. The combination of, length, hands, big playability, footwork, everything. It's a top 5. It feels like a top 5 receiver right now already. Hawkinson, credit him for getting open. They had a strip sack in this game. That was big. So credit the Lions for clutching up, being smart. But I'm not, it was entertaining, but I'm not really a fan of the game like this because just how a team won. I don't know. It's just, people were talking about, well, yeah, it's going to be a game that's remembered, but that's I think for the wrong reasons, even though it was entertaining. I honestly thought the Falcons outplayed the Lions in this game. That first draw, or one of the first score, there was a roughing the passer call on a sack, and that would have resulted in a field goal for the Lions. Instead, they get 7 points. So that was unfortunate as well. Later in the game, the Falcons had 4th and 5, and instead of kicking the field goal, they were going to go for it. Their offense, they were pushing the ball, but it wasn't like a guarantee. 4th and 5, that's pretty lengthy, especially what the situation was, what the points were. Kicked the field goal, and they don't even come close to getting that, and that ended up costing them in the end, too. So Dan Quinn's gone, but very, very poorly coached game. A lot of people blaming Todd Gurley, and Todd Gurley could have done something a little better, probably. But if the Falcons really did not want to score a touchdown, you take a knee and kick the field goal. I mean, it's that simple. Poorly coached game. The players weren't ready. I know it's interim coaches, but still, these guys, the house has to be cleaned after this season. It's a very poor decision making from the Falcons staff there. Again, either they played better than the Lions on both sides of the ball most of this game. And they lost because the Lions kind of the Lions, again, they clutched up. Credit to them. That's hard to do, hard to finish that. They still had to go out and play offense. So credit to the Lions. That was fantastic. But I'm not a fan of, it's wild, entertaining, but I'm not like a fan of games like that where I felt like I think the Lions are actually the better team. I had the Falcons were the better team in this game specifically, but I'm not really a fan when it feels like did the right team win that game. I hate kind of having that in the back of my mind. But again, Stafford clutched up. Kenny Galladay. I love me some Kenny Galladay, man. Wild game, though. Not too many teams can lose like that. Maybe only one, and there's the Falcons. I think I feel like there's a couple other teams that probably have pulled things similar off like that, maybe this year and in the past. Wild game, though. Another wild game, the Browns and the Bengals. Back and forth the whole game from the start all the way to the end. Where you got to credit is Baker Mayfield clutching up at the end. It's somewhere where you kind of doubt the guy, kind of losing the game. Can he dig them out? It's not too deep of a hole because it was back and forth. They were in the game, but can Baker get them out of this? Can he go clutch up, win the game? That's kind of a question for Baker Mayfield. And without Odell Beckham Jr., unfortunately, he's out for the year, so the Browns will take a hit from that. But he does it. He does it, and it was a fantastic, perfect throw to pearl of a ball to win the game. The corner was there to kind of make the play, but it's a tough play at the same time. Kind of just goes through his arms. Donovan Peoples-Jones, somebody's got to step up because OBJ's out, and that's big time. It's a good draft pick there from Michigan. That's huge. That's huge for them. I see Hooper go down in Harrison Bryant. See, that's another pretty good draft pick. End up having a pretty big game. I thought Kareem Hunt had a pretty big game. But the storyline here for me, a couple of them we'll get to, but Baker clutching up, making that big-time play. Joe Burrow, it's like not on him, but they just can't close out games here that they have. The Bengals should have multiple more wins. They just can't close it out. But a really good offensive game. Tyler Boyd, I've been hyping up Tyler Boyd for some years now, and you see why. The guy's a stud, maybe the best slot receiver in all of football. The guy's a beast. He's getting better and better. I always bring up the story of him freshman year at Pittsburgh. I thought this was the next elite wide receiver, and for some reason, he kind of regressed a little bit, and that's what made his draft stock go down. But the talent you saw the talent. It's there somewhere. A couple years in the Bengals here, maybe more than a couple years, you finally start to see it, what the Tyler Boyd that should have been and is now. So it's good to see that. T. Higgins, good to see that as well because people knocked him kind of out of the first round in terms of their grades because the question was, is he just a contested catch guy? And I didn't think so. I saw enough that he's more than that, and he's proving that as well. So it's good to see that. It's good to see Burrow develop. We knew the Boyd connection was going to be there. That was a given. That's kind of his Justin Jefferson type receiver for Burrow. It was a guarantee. But it's good to see him developing with T. Higgins. It's fantastic. Here's the weird part for the Browns. There is kind of a negative part for the Browns. The defense gives up yards and points, but it was kind of a lock for that to happen. We knew that going into the season. They're not that great on paper on defense, and they had a bunch of injuries. They have some studs, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Sheldon Richardson, but is that enough? Myles Garrett had a pretty big game there, of course, though. 2 sacks there, making big plays. They got turnovers. That's the one thing about this defense. They've been getting crazy amount of turnovers this year. They make plays, even though they give up yards and points. And they did that in this game, but the Bengals were still up, and the Bengals very well could have won the game. So why? Why is that? You get those clutch turnovers that held the Bengals out for very closely to getting more points in the game, and it was so close still. So this is a game the Browns should be a little more comfortable on. You can say on the Brown side. Other side of the Bengals, you can't have those turnovers. They had one on the goal line pretty much. And if in that sense you feel like the Bengals should win this game, they don't turn the ball over like that. You win the game. So it's kind of back and forth there. Both teams missing their star running back. Obviously Hunt still played pretty well. Injuries occurred on the offensive line, including Jonah Williams for the Bengals. So that didn't help. The Browns were getting after Joe Burrow, but that's nothing surprising there. But a wild game. I love to see Baker clutching up in the end, kind of proving people wrong a little bit, that he can do that. So that is fantastic to see. It's great. That last ball was great, but a wild game, and that's a big win for the Browns there. Yeah, tough one for the Bengals. Steelers and Titans, another wild one here. I'm going back to, and I was talking about this on Twitter, first possession of the game. The first possession of the game, the Steelers ran over 9 minutes, almost 10 minutes off the clock and scored a touchdown and converted all those third downs. Not too many teams can do that. That's so impressive. Not too many teams can do that. And this was so big. And obviously this one drive didn't decide the game. A lot went on within this game, both sides. But this was the key, and this will go unnoticed. This was the key to this game, that first drive of the game. Why? Because just think about it. Almost 10 minutes of the Titans, this high-powered offense, not touching the ball. And how do the Titans get going on offense? They kind of solidified that they established the run first, which opens up the pass. Tannehill has been making plays on his own, of course, this year. It's why he's kind of been almost considered for an MVP. But that's just kind of their game. The Steelers not only ran the clock, not only scored points, but they did not allow the Titans to kind of get going on their game because of this. And you can see it. You can see it. And that's how they got up. The Titans just couldn't play their game because of that first drive and other things the Steelers were doing, converting third downs, getting the ball back, clutching them on defense. TJ Watt's an absolute animal. Definitely strongly considered for the Defensive Player of the Year right now. Maybe he might be it. He's got some strong company, but yeah, I mean, wild game from the start. Steelers are going to look like it's going to be, they are dominating. Looks like they're going to put this game away, but the Titans kind of get going again. The Titans, because they're a really good team. It took them a while to get out of that funk that the Steelers kind of created, so credit to them. Titans started to get going. They started to get some turnovers as well. A.J. Brown making big plays. Derrick Henry making big plays. You're able to run the ball a little more as you kind of ease back into it. But it just shows how good the Titans are, too, because there are teams can't do that. There's so many teams that rely on run a little bit, rely on play action, and once they're down, there is no shot. And the Titans are just somehow able to do it, and it's because these are two heavyweights. That's why it is. So Titans get back in the game. Another weird game where you kind of can say both sides. Like, the Titans, if they didn't start off so slow, if they were allowed to get going early, they probably would have won this game. That's kind of a good thing for them. You could say that. But at the same time, the Steelers didn't turn the ball over because they haven't really been turning the ball over a whole bunch this year at all. If they weren't turning the ball over, then they would have dominated this game. So you kind of can say that to both sides. But again, I keep going back to that first drive, just running the clock, and that was huge. It kind of go unnoticed a little bit. But defense stepping up, making big plays. You see Taylor Lewan was definitely missing there. Devin Bush was definitely missing, down the stretch. Some of those big Derrick Henry runs. Not the best game from the Titans offensive line, which is kind of we're not used to seeing. But of course, Taylor Lewan was out. Just those third down conversions, like that is big going forward. That tells you a lot about a team. Like if a team's able to do that, some of them were pretty close to not being. So what would happen if they didn't convert those third downs? But not too many. That's impressive. Not too many teams can do that, and that shows like a championship caliber team. At the end, wild. Steelers end up throwing a pick there. Big time play by Jayon Brown, I thought. And that gave the Titans a shot, and they looked like they were moving the ball pretty easy. I'm like, man, Titans might score a touchdown. Forget the field goal. They might score a touchdown. That intentional grounding was killer, absolutely killer. So not the best play from Tannehill, but instant pressure from the Steelers guys there. That was ridiculous. So that is a key moment. It won't show up in the stat sheet in terms of a sack, but it's basically a sack there, and that pushes them back. They're forced to kick a long field goal. And Gostowski, who has not been guaranteed, kind of only in one game. Somehow he went 6 for 6 in one game this year. Misses the kick. So that intentional grounding was killer. You got to look back, that interception, what if Steelers, that interception that happened, Steelers kicked the field goal, the Titans would have been forced to go to the end zone. They might have been better off. Would they have scored? We don't really know. We think things definitely would have went differently if playing for a touchdown, So, that's pretty wild to think about, but crazy game. Two heavyweights. Steelers, I think that start, we're all about starting, that strong. They play the Ravens this week in Baltimore. They're fresh off a bye. Steelers look like the most balanced team in football. I can't wait. I cannot wait for that. Good game. Still believe very much in both these teams for sure, and we see why they were 1 and 2 in the power rankings going into this game. So now we're gonna have a little bit of a change. So Steelers obviously will take that spot. Let's not play games here. The Steelers are gonna take that spot at number 1 for our power rankings. Moving on to the next game, the Panthers and the Saints. Another wild game, another very entertaining game. This is kind of not that wild, I guess, at the end like the other games. Is another one that's kind of a weird game as well, and I say that because you kind of look at what the Panthers did here. And they were very much in this game. They took the lead at one point. It was back and forth. That's why it was so entertaining. They were in the game the whole way. Nobody was really ever out of the game. Saints started off a little strong. But the Panthers were never out of this game. But they barely even ran the ball. Mike Davis just could not get things going, so maybe they just didn't want to run the ball anymore. But he only got 7 carries. Credit to the Saints. The Saints run, stop D has just always been good. It still is very good. So they credit to them stepping up. But I think the Panthers, looking at that, the Panthers probably could have ran the ball more, tried to get Mike Davis going, maybe more in the passing game as well, because he's been pretty good in that aspect of the game. So kind of surprisingly, and not really given how the system of the offense, but you think they could have got that going a little more with some of those other running backs too. Whoever was in the game, just running in general. So it's not really just Mike Davis, but that's kind of my point. The limited amount of runs that they had, but then you look at. So then you could say, all right, that wasn't going. They were in the game, so they probably threw all over them, right? They probably threw so many times. They threw well. They passed the ball well on them, but they didn't really, it's weird. I felt like they didn't have enough offensive plays. That's kind of my takeaway waking up this morning for this game. Like, I don't know if they had enough offensive plays. And I guess their scores were like big chunk plays. I guess they didn't really work the field. I guess that's where their flaw was in this game. They didn't really work the field. They would score on one big play, couple big plays, whatever. So they weren't really able to control the clock game, the time possession game, the run game. They weren't able to control that, and that's why they lost the game. And it's one of those things where it's nothing you really can do. Like, obviously, you're going to take those big chunk plays that DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and what those guys have been able to do. Been fantastic. Teddy Bridgewater moving in the pocket, avoiding sacks. Again, what he's so good at, making those big-time plays downfield that some people doubted him on. But just not enough offensive plays. And I guess that's credit to the Saints, but they were giving up big chunk plays, though, so you can't credit them there. But that's kind of why the Panthers lost. So it's a strange loss. It's kind of a strange loss there. But the Saints offense got it going when they had to. Drew Brees made plays when he had to. That Jared Cook touchdown's fantastic. Marquez Callaway early on in his career at Tennessee, I'm like thinking this guy is a future legit pick. Maybe not first rounder, but second, third rounders. Guy can play in the NFL. And then for some reason, I think it's more of Tennessee's fault. Kind of regressed a little bit, and that forced the Saints to kind of get a free guy there, undrafted. So, and he's got some talent to him. Obviously, you'd rather have other receivers out there. Kamara was unstoppable. The Panthers, had struggles tackling him, and Murray, actually. They had struggles tackling the both of them at quite a few times, not just in the run game, but obviously Kamara in the passing game as well, being more of that playmaker that he is rather than just a running back. So big game for him. There were 2 sacks in this game. This is another wild part of this game. There was 2 sacks, and they may have been the biggest plays in this game. The Panthers, Brian Burns, extremely underrated. This guy might be an elite edge rusher in the making. I love Brian Burns. The crazy athletic ability. He has the traits already. Kind of known as a little bit of a raw prospect. Like he might be okay early, but nothing special, and he'll get going later. But he's already ridiculous early. He gets a strip sack, which was huge to keep the Panthers in the game. Then you look at the sack from Marcus Davenport, who's been a little quiet, but we've missed him. Obviously, the Saints have missed him with some injuries. But he makes that big sack on 3rd and long. That pretty much. That's the game right there. Maybe that's not the biggest game-changing play, but that kind of sets the game there. Panthers were able to attempt a NFL record kick, a little short on it. Good attempt there. But yeah, I think that last sack was kind of the moment there. Good game, but yeah, it's weird that the Panthers, like, it feels like they kind of lost because they had too many chunk plays and they couldn't really, go, march down the field, and credit the Saints defense for that. That's where they're good. They're really not good deep. Secondary kind of gets beat behind them, but that's kind of where they're good, kind of in the middle there, not letting teams get crazy drives going, So that's where you got to credit the Saints. So wild game, kind of a weird game for the reasons I explained. Do I have to? Do I really have to recap this game? Jets look like they had it. Darnold was playing pretty well. Not great, but he's playing pretty good early on, making some good throws. The Bills really couldn't hang, but then the Jets really weren't executing the red zone, but the same thing went to the Bills. They were making mistakes early. They couldn't execute in the red zone. That's more of the case for the entire game. Josh Allen threw the ball 40-plus times. He threw for a lot of yards. For throwing that many times, you would like, if I had to nitpick it, you would like a little more yards, but overall, those are good numbers. But they couldn't score a touchdown. Like, it's so weird. They insist on Singletary. I'm not really a fan of him. He looked pretty good last year. I was kind of surprised how good he looked last year, honestly. He's an okay runner, but now this makes more sense. He can't really get things going. Zach Moss, they probably should have ran the ball more too. Would he have 7 carries, and he ran the ball pretty well? They probably should have ran him more. play calling is interesting because it was good to start the year, but I think it was mainly good because they had such a variety of plays, and that's because how good Josh Allen was playing. They were throwing out options here and there out of nowhere. They had a variety of plays, and that's kind of gone away for some reason. And maybe there's a little bit less trust in Josh Allen, but I wouldn't know why. I don't know if that's fully true, but that's almost, it's hard to like. What do you make of this? So I don't really agree with the play calls, play choice, who they're giving the ball to. They're kind of going away from the variety because of that. So I'm not really agreeing with that. Players could play better. Josh Allen could play better. Singletary needs to play. I think Zach Moss is honestly probably better. It feels like they got two really good number 2 running backs, like two really good rotation running backs. To me, they still need a number 1. And obviously the value of running back, do you go out and find a really good number 1? I think it would make this team that much better. But I think weird game. I don't know. They definitely got to score more points in this one. They get the win. The Jets defense clutched up in the red zone. I think Greg Williams is a really good defensive mind. He's really good at game planning. He's really, he doesn't really have the players. I wish he had the players, because I think he's a really good defensive coach, and it kind of shows in a game like this. It shows in other games, even when they're giving up points. This one they really didn't. So field goals win the game for the Bills here. It did feel like Josh Allen it was weird. It felt like a little bit of, at times, it felt like a little bit of a different Josh Allen because he's kind of that guy that won't really throw the ball away, like he's going to go for it. And there was times where, and it didn't happen often, but even when you see it a couple times, it's kind of weird. There was times where he actually might have had, like a guy like Diggs, it might have been a tough throw, but he would just throw the ball away or kind of just give up on the play, which was very odd. And I kind of go back to last year. Early in the year, he was turning the ball over, and the defense kind of had to dig. Very early last year, defense kind of had to dig him out of holes. And then they kind of turned Josh. Okay, let's just game manage here. Throw the ball away when you need to. We're going small ball, and then they just didn't have enough offense going. But it helped a little bit compared to the turnovers. And then they kind of figured out the middle ground as the season went on and why they had success and why they made the playoffs. And then going into this year they kind of had that, but added more to it. But I saw glimpses of that in the last game. He threw for a ton of yards. They're letting him throw downfield, but I saw a little bit of that, which I thought was kind of weird. But so the Bills are kind of in a weird state. They have a big game against the Patriots. We talk about the Jets, though. P. Ryan was playing good. Mims is a good blocker. We saw that. Guys were making plays. Darnold was making plays. People probably will disagree with me, probably, but this was kind of that Darnold game that was kind of the final one. I've never been a big Darnold guy. I never thought he was going to be like a great quarterback. Sure, take a shot at him. He's got potential. And then he keeps turning the ball over. And then you got the people saying, well, he doesn't have enough talent, which he doesn't have enough talent. But is he going to go from bad to great with more talent? Absolutely not. Things kind of just don't go away with the quarterbacks that turn over the ball at the wrong times. This was kind of the final game. And he's had worse games than this. But this feels like that final dagger to me because he was playing pretty well. Still need to put more points up on the board, playing pretty well, and they were controlling the game. Then he throws that bad interception. Was that right before half? Throws that bad interception, and then he just can't execute. He just can't finish the game that they're very much in and can win. It's not like the Bills' defense is as good as it was last year. They would work the field a little bit, but then he just couldn't make that throw. They couldn't finish. So it just kind of felt like the dagger for me that Darnold is always gonna, make make that bad interception, at the worst time. He's not gonna be a guy that's gonna lead the NFL in interceptions. Maybe he could, but so that was kind of like the final dagger for me. Even though I was never really a believer on him, because of how the game went, and he just can't do it. He just could be a little better, could pad the stats a little more with more talent. But I think that the weapons were actually playing pretty well in this game. I really think they were. So I don't know, not the best game. Another one, do I have to? Washington just dominated this game. Antonio Gibson, you see why, I liked him a lot in the pre-draft process, and he's an absolute stud. It's a defense you probably should be able to run on, but he really ran all over him. Terry McLaurin, you see he's a very solid player. The Cowboys, there's nothing going anywhere. Is there a single bright moment? Nothing. They can't get a pass rush. They can't get... at least get a pass rush, because they got a couple guys that should be able to. They can't stop the run. Guys are out of place. Jalen Smith's playing terrible. It's weird to see. Terrible angles, terrible effort, terrible coverage, getting beat. This is a poorly coached team. Mike Nolan needs to go. He needs to go. They do need better talent, so maybe it's not all on him, but it's a poorly coached team on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively as well, but they're so beat up on offense. Everyone's out. So, but you still could expect a little more. I mean, you got third down screen passes. They're almost at the point where you almost have to, because if he drops back in obvious passing situations, whoever the quarterback is, Dalton or DiNucci, is going to get sacked. But I mean, the give up, kind of just letting up. You hate to see it. It's unfortunate. And there was plays left out in the field for sure. Dalton had CeeDee Lamb a touchdown, then there ended up being an interception. Just plays like that. Zeke's playing once again. He's not playing well. Almost looks like Pollard's better, which is mind blowing. But I just don't have much in this game. The Washington football team dominated them. Got the good pass rush. The game was pretty much simplified for them. Playing the Cowboys and getting up on getting that safety was huge. Landon Collins ended up getting hurt in this game, but just getting up like that early and making that statement early it makes the game so much simpler when you play the Cowboys. It's just how it is. I'm ashamed that I picked the Cowboys in this game. It was hard to pick Washington after last week because I thought the Giants played to punt the ball. The Giants did not play to win that game, and they still won. So that's why it was very hard for me to pick Washington. But going into Sunday, I'm like, I want to switch my pick to Washington. I'm always afraid. I don't have the balls, apparently, to switch my pick because in the past, whenever I did, team lost. But I really wanted to switch this one, and I'm pissed at myself for not doing it because the Cowboys are just they got nothing. They got nothing right now. Even more beat up as well. It's a big win for Washington. Doesn't mean enough, though. Probably not. Packers, Texans, not one I could talk a lot. What I predict? 35-27, end up being 35-20. Packers it's a good bounce back game. It's a game they should win. And they had a lot of injuries too, though. And you see other teams have injuries, and that's kind of the excuse. And it could be a legitimate excuse. The Packers fight past that, and they show that. Just go out there and be the better team. So you love to see that from a team, to prove other people. Like, you just go out and play football. You find ways. And I've been saying that for some time. You just go out and find ways. And I love that the Packers go out and prove that is the way. That's legitimate. Like, you got to just find ways, and it's just either you're a good enough team or you're not. And it's a game they should win either way, but still, it's good to see that. Aaron Jones out. Jamal Williams came out hot. Jamal Williams, that is. I think throughout the whole game, it felt like Devontae Adams too, but there's a lot of times Jamal Williams got them down the field with big plays, and they were just passing. And I like that too. I picked up Jamal Williams in both my leagues. So, in that sense, I wish they would have got him the touchdowns that he deserved in a way. But I'm impressed. The Packers aren't, Aaron Rodgers are not following any handbook. Like, we probably should run the ball here. Can't stand when quarterbacks decide to do that. So they stay creative. There's no let up there. So I love that. Devontae Adams had a ridiculous game. Too many one-on-ones with guys that he's just way, way better than. Just torching guys off the first step. That's what's ridiculous. He beat guys. He had wide open catches to make, so there's nothing in that way. There's nothing to be like, oh, wow, he caught the ball wide open. But how did he get there? How did he get there to that point? That's the impressive spot. The first step, the first move, it's really not with the feet, too. It's with the hand fakes as well. But mainly that first step off the ball, just dominant, just ridiculous. And that is what resulted in the wide open or the big plays, making guys miss downfield as well. In a huge game out of here. But if you go back and watch, he was beating guys that he's just way better than. It was almost pathetic. But just beat him on the first step. Man coverage, you're done right away. You put him in the slot, put him outside, don't matter. So it's ridiculous. Jamal Williams, Devontae Adams, ridiculous game. Rodgers did, he did him. It felt like they could have done a little more actually too at the end, but they kind of controlled the game. Defense there was some plays where the Texans kind of ran the clock because they were moving downfield. The defense clutched up at the right moments. You still will see the tackling issues for the Packers in tackling attempts, putting yourself in the position to make the tackles. Even good players, I think at times some good players on the Packers that I see that from. Barnes went down at one point in this game. That was kind of a somewhat of a better spot of the inside linebacker position, which is really weak and injured, but it's, Summers can't figure it out. It is such a weak spot. So I need the Packers to go trade for an inside linebacker. In my opinion, there should be some guys available, but Watson made some plays, just not enough there. The Packers are just better, even when they're hurt. So I don't really have too much else in this game. Texans are, What they do was that yeah, they had some interesting play calls. They run an option on. I try to remember things from every game. It's tough to do sometimes, but yeah, I think they ran an option like a 4th down, 4th and 1. Just a piss poor play call. That's not when you run. Short yardage is not when you when the defense is not worried about anything behind them, which is rare. Only the short yardage plays or red zone plays. That's not when you run that. Like, it's such a poor play call. So that's, the coaching staff still need to clean house. They still need to clean house here for sure. And that showed in the Titans game with that 2-point conversion call, and this game with plays like that. I mean, but that's really not why they lost. But when it comes up, you can't ignore that, Bucks, Raiders. I try to tell you guys about these Bucks, man. This is a good team. This is a really good team right here. It's a team to beat in the NFC right now. There's a couple other teams too. We talked about the Packers. And the Bears beat the Bucks. The Bucks beat themselves, I thought, with penalties, and they had some injuries. But the Bears are really good as well. And this is the Seahawks. There's some really good NFC teams, but the Bucks are the team to beat right now. This is a really good team because of everything, because of both sides of the ball. And this is what I was trying to tell people in the offseason. People thought I was overreacting from Tom Brady, which there's reasons to get hyped on Tom Brady. Here's an example of this game because the guy can still play, but it's more than about that. I mean, Devin White and Levante David, we knew that was the best duo in football. We knew Levante David was going to be ridiculous. It was a guarantee. Devin White, unbelievable. What do you have? 3 sacks in this game, a blitzing master, but more than everything about an inside linebacker. He's already at the top. There's some good company too. Bobby Wagner, Eric Kendricks for middle linebackers. And there's more than that, just top of my head, but and he's right there with him already. And Levante David as well. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how good that guy is. And everything, Winfield right off the bat. They got a complete defense. They got a very complete. Even Mike Edwards. You think if you could pick out one spot where they probably can get better, it's probably that other safety spot next to which they rotate a lot because Winfield plays strong, free, so they got to rotate Edwards in and out. It makes sense. I like it. But if there's kind of one spot, that second safety spot is probably where they can get better. But guys like Mike Edwards even stepping out making plays. McClendon looks good. He's filling in for Vita Vea. That's fantastic. Vita Vea maybe gets more of a pressure presence, but still McClendon looking pretty good. The edge rushers looking good, and the inside linebackers helping the edge rushers look a little better. But they're definitely good. Offense, Tom Brady making those pearl throws, dropping it right in the breadbasket. Gronk getting going, and it's another thing we talked about in the offseason too. They're probably not going to use Gronk a lot early in the year. I mean, everything is actually more than I expected. I predicted the Bucs to go to the Super Bowl. Well, I mean, we'll see if they get there. I'm not saying anything now, but but I even thought it might take a little. And they did have some loss. They lost to the Saints, which was expected. The Bears lost, maybe, but they're further along actually than I thought they would be because they're really, even though I really like their defense, they're really young. So I thought it would be something that's getting better in the chemistry on offense, the offensive line. I thought it would be something that's wouldn't be getting this good until a little later, actually. So they are actually impressing me, and I was pretty high on the Bucs. They didn't allow a single sack. That's credit to Tom Brady, credit to the offensive line, credit to the coaching, but kind of a knock on the pass rush of the Raiders. They just haven't really been able to get enough there, They got some guys that can play, but do they have enough? That's kind of the question in the offseason, too. They got guys that can play all over the place. They're a pretty balanced team, but do they have enough of that impact, take over guys? And they got a couple, maybe a little better than expected, maybe mainly Derek Carr, but I don't know if they really have that. They kind of need that in the pass rush position there. And Crosby's great, but maybe not great. Shouldn't say great, but yeah, they kind of need more of that. But yeah, the Bucs kind of controlled this game. The Raiders kind of came out hot on a pretty good defense. That was pretty impressive. Then they kind of slowed down. Todd Bowles is really good in adjusting and kind of saving things. They'll blitz for the right moments in the Packers game. But they made their throws. It's weird to see, did they win on offense or defense? The Buccaneers, probably more offense because 45 points, but that's how good this team is. I think the Bucs and the Steelers are probably the more complete teams in football if you look at AFC and NFC there. So really impressive game. They actually it's weird they scored 45 because the Buccaneers got slowed up at one point on defense. The Raiders have been making adjustments. We've seen in the Chiefs game, the Chiefs getting a lot of points, but also they make that an adjustment, slow down Mahomes a little bit. We saw a glimpse of that in this game, but Bucs just overcome it. They're just so good at kind of taking that next step and them adjusting afterwards. So they're so good at that. It's good to see Fournette going, Scotty Miller getting going, but hey, Antonio Brown's going to come in, so you had a great game, but you're about to get less reps in a couple weeks. Mike Evans can't do much, but they still score 45 points. Yeah, we talk about Gronk. Yeah, Godwin. Brady was just spectacular. Yeah, they're feeling it. They are feeling it. Raiders, yeah, just it's not the best matchup too. I think Raiders fans kind of let us have it for picking the Bucs, but I think we've been right on most Raiders games this year. Really, the Chiefs game was surprising. Not many people picked against them, but they were able to keep up with the Chiefs offensively. They can score on that defense. But unlike the Bucs can also score like that, but they have that defense to make that extra play. So it wasn't the best matchup for the Raiders in this game. They had their COVID situation as well, so maybe that played a part. Big game against the Browns next week for the Raiders. Next game is the Chiefs and the Broncos, and again, it's not really a game. Do I have to once again? The Chiefs really didn't even use their offense a whole bunch, and they won 43-16. I felt like a lot of Broncos fans were giving us some smack for picking the Chiefs, oddly enough. But the Chiefs, they didn't even play their game. Like, they didn't even use their offense a whole bunch. I guess you can credit the Broncos' defense, a solid defense at times, for that. But the Chiefs they scored 43 points on all phases, and offense really wasn't that big of one. This is weird. They're missing guys in the offensive line. They're still able to step up. They're missing that big piece, Mitchell Schwartz. They got pressure on Locke. Just one with special teams. The defense made some big-time plays. Not throw with Drew Lock, a guy I liked out of the draft. I never thought he was going to be anything spectacular, but I'm not. The last couple weeks, I'm not. People making excuses too, and I'm not liking that either. I'm just not thrilled. I'm a Drew Lock fan, but I'm not happy. Not happy with the play. And I'm not happy with this is kind of a reason. I kind of like confident guys. Maybe he gets a little cocky, but he was able to play well at Missouri or play well at times and do that. But right off the bat, he scores on a running touchdowns points as he's going at Tano Passanio. I don't like that. It's too early, and he end up kind of slapping himself in the face with that one. I'm not a fan of that. So holding the ball too long, just making bad throws, throwing where he shouldn't. Taking sacks, almost taking sacks. Sometimes he kind of gets lucky, gets away. I'm not thrilled with him right now. I didn't play terrible, but I'm not thrilled with it. So, and then they got their injuries too, so that's a legitimate excuse. But the Chiefs are just better. They didn't even have to use their offense fully. There's really not much else I can say about the game. There just really isn't. Maybe the snow was a factor. I knew it was going to snow. It's pretty bad that I trust the Chiefs in Denver in the snow more than Denver. But yeah. We're going to move on to another absolute ass beating. 33-6, 49ers. Dominant performance. 49ers kind of feeling like they're kind of get back in their groove. They're kind of back. Some disappointing losses, then beat the Rams, beat the Patriots, look really good while doing it. Just great game plans. And I thought the Patriots would run Camwell. I thought that would be the difference, but they couldn't really do it. That was kind of the difference. They just started off down so much they couldn't really do that, and that was really the difference. If they were able to run, I still don't think they're going to win just based on how the other play of players went and units went. But the game would have been much closer if they were able to establish that. But the 49ers did not let them do that, and they came out once again establishing the run, just playing hard football, just playing football, just going out there and just being more physical than the other team. That's exactly what this is. Just being better, really, plain and simple. Garoppolo was weird because he was pretty accurate with the ball, but then again, some of the interceptions were really, really bad. One of them you can tell. I remember, I'm sitting there watching the game, and you can see him with his feet, just like panicking. I call it happy feet, and I'm like, this ball's interception. And I swear that's what I said, just sitting there watching it. And that's when he had the ball, and you see the ball go down, you see the camera move, easy interception. Like, it's weird that you can tell with his footwork, a lot of quarterbacks, exactly what's going to happen. So he's got to clean that up. The downfield throws definitely got to be cleaned up there. It starts with the footwork, and that's something that's a big negative, especially, it's something with a young quarterback. But other than that, it was pretty good. They ran the ball very well. Jeff Wilson ended up getting hurt, but he ran very well. Hasty ran pretty well. Didn't really use McKinnon a whole bunch, but they kind of dominated in that aspect. Did what they had to do. They probably could have done more, honestly. Fred Warner was absolutely all over the place. Covers like a cornerback. Overall, the defense, they did not let them establish the run. And they just played tougher than them. They outplayed them. And they just had Cam off his game. And, a lot of it was Cam kind of giving them gifts at times, but the Niners set that up, so they deserve the credit there. They came out playing tougher and didn't let them establish the run, made them one-dimensional, so they are the reason that happened. But Cam, it looks like the last couple of years, Cam, it looks like he's playing hurt, but it's no longer an excuse anymore because it's just, I think it's permanent. It's unfortunate to say. I think it's permanent. We thought maybe he was good because he had some throws here and there earlier in the year against teams that aren't as good as now we're realizing, the defenses, they're not that good, and they really couldn't get anything going against the Dolphins. He was able to run on them. That might be a better team than we expected, but they really didn't do a whole bunch. Defense won that game. So we're starting to kind of make sense a little bit, and it's unfortunate. He does not look right. They have a chance to win games because if they can establish the run, if he can kind of run, open up the pass, but those passes, those throws will show up again, and they won't be able to contend. And we see, people thought they could actually be better without Brady, which was absolutely stupidity. And they thought it was actually Brady's fault at times last year, but the team wasn't that good enough, and Brady was actually picking them up. He's actually picking them up. And we see that now. And I kind of was almost calling it a fact back then. People would disagree with me. So I guess it was kind of opinion, but now we know. Now we know. So the team really isn't there. Cam really isn't there. It's weird to see. Because even the defense, they tackling this. I think they had the least amount of tackles. I could be wrong on that, but they were definitely up there. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. I think they had the least amount of missed tackles going into this game, and they could not tackle. Even when they were there to make the tackle, the attempt to tackle, the angles, it was sad. It was sad to see how bad that was. So interesting. Another big win for the Niners. Jags-Chargers ended up being a shootout. Chargers had control early, 16-0. They were kind of typical Chargers, kind of letting them back in it. Weird that the Jags, it was a shootout, but Minshew only threw for 170 yards there. Yeah, I guess just not enough once again. It's just stuff we already know, But, James Robinson was fantastic. Really good. Minshew got sacked quite a bit. Joey Bosa had a pretty big game. Uchenna Nwosu, back-to-back pretty good games for him. So that's good to see. So they were getting after Minshew. I guess his job was made a little harder, but just can't get enough. You throw the ball, you get 29 points. You're trying to win in a shootout. You gotta have a little more there, but it's nothing new. Offensive line sure didn't really help him that much though. The couple failed fourth down conversions that actually could have been the game. That actually could have made the difference. So Herbert played out of his damn mind. Ridiculous. This was his best game, and he finally, they were able to finish and got that win. It was a ridiculous game, throwing and running the ball. Weird that Mike Williams isn't more involved, but didn't really matter. And they're getting Guyton going a little more, getting everybody going pretty much. Mike Williams and Hunter Henry really aren't involved. It's kind of weird, but Keenan Allen's still the best in the team there. Getting Joe Reed involved, kind of like the somewhat poor man's Deebo Samuel type player. Jackson Kelly played pretty solid. Herbert was out of his mind, but the weird part, I guess the negative is that the Jaguars actually could, if they would have clutch up for the Chargers, Joey Bosa making big stops, the defense making big stops on fourth downs in the right moments, the impact, crucial moments. But if the Jaguars would have converted some of those, or kicked the field goal at one point earlier on one, and then converted those. A lot has to happen. The Chargers deserved, they made those plays, but the Jags actually could have won this game, and that's kind of like how Herbert played that well, we played that well, but they had, they could have won the game, but they stepped up at those right moments, made those big plays. Like I said, wild game for Justin Herbert. Love to see it. The big play ability. Can he grow from here? It's ridiculous to think about. So, very impressed with that. The Jags, at this point, the fans might want them to lose. It's hard to watch your team and just kind of root for them to lose, but, right now, here we are on Monday, you definitely, this is kind of a good thing. It's kind of a good thing here. And then one more game here. Oh, my God. We talked about all these wild games, and the craziest one of not only of the week, but of the year, and maybe it's going to be remembered forever, 37-34. And this is a crazy one. Right off the bat, it felt like the Seahawks were going to dominate this game. Cardinals kind of wouldn't go away. They stayed in it. And then you had the Buda Baker, when it felt like the Seahawks were going to put that, take a next step closer to where, they're going to dominate the game. But Buda Baker makes that great pick. Not a smart throw, really, and he kind of hung it up a little bit, but I think it was more of a Buda Baker. Maybe the best safety in football right now. A great play. And you thinking, okay, that's 6 for sure. And then here comes, holy hell, it's DK Metcalf. the biggest freak in the universe, just chases him down. And I mean, it's a great play from Buddha. It's hard to say. Like, can you say he should have scored on that? Like, you got to get in the end zone, but there's really nothing you can do when a guy is that much faster. We see him take off. So it's kind of a weird one. Like, what do you say on that? Overall, it's a great play by Buddha Baker. You wish he gets in the end zone for the Cardinals' sake. DK Metcalf, though, and I hate the play calling. I absolutely hate the play calling most of this game, but specifically after that play in the red zone. They run. You actually get pretty decent yards for Drake, and they run again. Did not like that. Then on third down, they run, and I've been even up to, it's early, but up to this point, a reason I picked the Cardinals is because I thought they were going to run Murray outside more design runs outside, because we start to see a little more of those season goes on. They dominated Seahawks at the end of the year last year like that. It's a weakness, especially with Jamal Adams out. That is a reason. Is not the only reason, but that is the biggest reason I picked the Cardinals to win a game, and they weren't doing it when they should have. And now here we go. We get to third down in goal, and you do not run that play there. You don't run. They end up scoring on it later because Murray's just that shifty and that good at running, but it's a terrible play call. But there, they get stuffed. You do not run that play there. When it drives me nuts. Why you don't run the play there in the red zone, the defense is not worried about anything past that goal line, behind them, on that goal line. So everything's in front. Where the field of play, 50-yard line, 30-yard, wherever it is, there's so much, there could be a gap. There's so much that's their jurisdiction there for these players that you run that, then that's where it's dominant. And you don't run that. You can here and there. I think an option, even though I wouldn't really agree with an option even, but I think that would be a little better. And I know it's a read option, but I mean like an actual option. But I don't like the call, and they end up going to fourth down. And it's kind of just a simple pass play, nothing creative. So, you could knock them a little bit on that, but I'm not going to knock them on that play. Kyler Murray just, it's kind of, the receivers got to get open. I talked about separation hasn't been the greatest this year, but it's kind of a really bad play for Kyler Murray, just digging himself deeper. It's just not smart. And it's almost because, I think he trusts his feet a little too much. And he has to throw up a prayer. So it was a kind of a pathetic attempt. And the Seahawks go down there and get that touchdown that they almost got before the interception. So I hated the play calling for the Cardinals. And it's crazy to think about that they won the game. Like, I can argue like so many different things in this game. Like, the play calling was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Like they matched up better. That's why I picked the Cardinals, is because they match up better against Seahawks, and they match up good against Seahawks. It's a bad matchup with the Seahawks, but they didn't run the correct plays to back up to support that claim, which I think is true, that they are a good matchup against the Seahawks. They didn't run the plays. It was very poor play calling, and they still won the game. And that tells me that head-to-head, they might just be, and they were home in this game, but they might just be better than the Seahawks. But the Seahawks side, Russell Wilson threw these interceptions that most of the time, really rarely he throws, and they still maybe should have, could have won the game, we'll say. So you can say if he doesn't, you can kind of say both sides here. But I think 2 out of 3 of those interceptions, they weren't the smartest throws, but 2 out of 3 of those interceptions were mainly really good plays. Buddha Baker and Isaiah Simmons, mind-blowing that the guy can play, that the guy can read a elite quarterback's, the MVP possibly's eyes and make a big game-changing play. It's mind-blowing. Not really. So those were just really good plays. So if the Cardinals, if they would have, kicked the field goal at one point, when you can say the same about the Seahawks, if they would have, if Russ didn't have those interceptions, but again, I think that was the Cardinals' defense, because it's not the best defense, but they got some studs, they got some big-time playmakers there. I think it was more of them making the good plays, where the Cardinals, when they were kind of getting stumped, I don't know, and I hate to say it, but I'm not going to really credit the Seahawks defense on those a whole bunch, recognizing that Kyler Murray's going to run outside and stop him from doing that. They slowed him down quite a bit. They slowed Drake down quite a bit, so you can credit them there. But if the Cardinals would have called the correct plays, which it was bad play calling. It was so obvious that how they match up again. If they would have had better play calling, and if Kyler Murray made some bad plays as well, and I think that those were more on him, the defense making the plays, and if they would have kicked the field goal at one point, they could have won this game in regulation, I actually think. And even though they had to come back, it's weird to think about, but I actually think that based on this matchup, I think head-to-head, I think this game tells us the Cardinals are better. Now, are the Seahawks, who's actually better? We're talking about against the field of play, contending for the one and only goal. It's definitely the Seahawks. So don't get me wrong on that. But yeah, again, the play calling. I wish they would have ran Kyler Murray outside a lot more in the field of play, like in the open field, I should say. And Hopkins had that fumble as well. Forgot about that as well. But which is a great play by Poona Ford. I think and earlier they were running Murray. They were running Murray, but they were running him up the middle, and they were running Drake outside, getting negative yards. I felt like you were backwards. I thought this was a very poor, but when they had the last drives to go get the touchdown, go get the field goal, there was great play calling. It was great. So, and you see it. I could talk about this game all day. You see that it's a college offense. When they had no choice but to go high tempo, and they had no choice, that's when Kingsbury is king. That's where he's king. That's where he's good. And then, they got to do more of that. It's tough to do it every single play in the NFL. You really can't, but you definitely got to do more of that. I thought it was a poorly coached game up to that point. And another reason I picked the Cardinals is because what I say during the week, I said that you look back at the Minnesota game for Seattle. Minnesota actually shut down, believe it or not, they shut down the Seahawks in the first half. Vikings defense, poor defense versus Seahawks elite offense. The first half they shut them down. Why? Because they brought blitzes. They sacked Russell Wilson. They got after him. And the Cardinals might be because of their players, might be a better blitzing team, and they shown that they're willing to blitz, and they were not blitzing. So I'm like, here I am. I picked the Cardinals because Kyler Murray was going to dominate them running outside, and the Cardinals were going to blitz. They were going to dominate Russell Wilson, but they were going to blitz him and throw him off just enough, and they're not doing it. And I was so mad because I'm not so mad, but I felt like I picked them for the right reasons, but they're not doing it. And then Vance Joseph comes alive here. He comes alive. He saved it. I think he waited a little too long, but maybe he saved it for the right moment. It kind of looks like he did, and had those blitz calls, and that was the game changer there. They were able to play some defense. They were able to rattle Russell Wilson. They were able to give him less time because the actual pass rushers couldn't really get after him. And that was absolutely huge. The different guys they bring on blitzes. Buda Baker had an excellent game. Patrick Peterson had an interception. They had guys all over the place making plays then, and it actually looked like a really good defense. Even though they gave up 34, it actually looked like a really good defense, and they made those plays. And they clutch up. Gonzalez makes that kick. They go to overtime. And that brings up a whole other debate. But people, I didn't like it last week. What was it, Titans, Texans? I don't like when people complain about overtime. I'm never going to complain about overtime ever. It's kind of just how it's been. And it's just, you got to play some defense. And obviously it could be made better if both teams have a shot. So I'm not saying that it's not better if both teams have it. I'm not saying that. People take that the wrong way. I was talking about this on Twitter. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you can't really complain about it. I think when teams lose, like the Texans lost, I think a lot of people went, well, the Texans lost because NFL overtime. You lost because you couldn't play defense. If my team did that, I'm going to be cussing out the defense. I'm going to be like, how are we not playing? I'm probably, for me, that's the type of fan I am. If we got the ball first, if my team got the ball first, I'm probably like, even if we have 70 points in regulation, I'm like, we're probably not scoring. That's everyone's different. That's my thinking. So people are already complaining before overtime even started. Whoever gets the ball first is going to win. Here comes the complainers. And guess what? Defense showed up. Defense won the overtime. 4 possessions total. The blitzing of the Cardinals was key. I've been calling for Isaiah Simmons, saying how it's probably the most disappointing thing on the season. This stud of a guy, this freak of a guy that you can put anywhere is not playing. He plays a total of 5 snaps. They put him in. He makes the play. It's not only just an interception. He read one of the best quarterbacks in football's eyes, made the play. And at that point, it was pretty much Seahawks win or tie. Seahawks win or tie. Now it's kind of starting to feel like, they might have to punt. I don't know. It'd be a tie. Isaiah Simmons makes it possible they can win the game, obviously. But I kind of fast forward a little bit. But the defense stepping up, making big plays, blitzing. And they just stopped the Seahawks almost right away on the first possession there. And that's good. It's a good look for overtime, too. And they march down the field, and then they go. And again, I think the play calling up to that point is great. Getting Edmonds the ball. Edmonds looks like an absolute stud. The play calling when down 10 was good. The play calling there was good. But the play calling all the rest of the game was atrocious, terrible. They didn't have the right game plan. But then they get down the field, and it's 2nd and 15, and they decide to kick the field goal. Plenty of time left. They decided they want to kick the field goal, and Kingsbury was about to get a delay of game, so that was even worse. Like, if it wasn't for somebody telling him to call a timeout, he wouldn't have saw it. Like, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible. But the worst part is kicking the ball in 2nd 15. You don't want to get any closer. You don't trust your guys to not turn turn the ball over. That's another thing kind of going backwards. Now I'm all over the place, kind of going backwards. Kyler Murray's interception earlier was it was sloppy footwork, sloppy throw. Everything was bad, and I hate to see that. When you see the inconsistency on the accuracy downfield, and it's because of that. Is that something that we could clean it up, but is it going to go away? So that's actually, even though Murray clutched up, he's a hell of a runner. Sometimes I think they rely on the small ball a little too much, and there was some point where they realize they got to get 10 points and the clock is running and they're running the ball. They're playing small ball. I thought there was a little lack of trust there at one point, but then all of a sudden it opened up again. But then you get down to 2nd and 15. Edmonds is taken off, but they're not trusting him. They're not trusting Murray, maybe because of that interception. And they kicked the field goal. Very poor decision. Obviously, you expect your guy to make it. Obviously, you're allowed to have confidence in your guy to make it, but you got to get a little closer there. You kind of set that up. And then the Isaiah Simmons play came. DK actually scored on the play. I think it was the right call holding. Here's the debate. There's holding on pretty much every play, and I understand they have to call the really, really bad ones. I kind of agree. It's tough to call that there, but I kind of agree. Seahawks they kind of been getting away with those a bit, and they kind of got him on him. Finally got him on it at the worst time. But yeah, that brings up the debate that they do let holdings go at times. But to me, that's certainly one you can't really. But I don't know. So that's tough. At that point, both teams, the Cardinals probably thought they already won the game, and the Seahawks probably thought they already won the game. So then the Cardinals get the ball back. And they work the field, and ends up being a longer field than you expect. They go for a shot. I don't really mind that shot. I don't really like it, but it's not where it's terrible like some other decisions. I think I wish you would have got a little closer. It's one thing if it's like a 30-yard field goal where they take that shot. I kind of like the balls on it a little bit, but again, it's not the easiest field goal, and he makes the kick there, and that wins the game, an absolutely wild game. That's kind of my takeaways. I picked the Cardinals because I thought they would have the right game plan. I don't think it's a great matchup for the Seahawks on either side of the ball, really, even though I knew the Seahawks would score a lot of points. But they didn't really do that. They waited too long to run those correct, to have the right game plan, and they still won the game. That's kind of crazy to think about. It's crazy. Not the best game from Russ, but the Cardinals guys just stepped up and made plays. So I think it's more on them. Just credit to them making the plays. Again, credit to Vance Joseph. Again, I think he waited a little long with the blitz, but at the right time, kind of the element of surprise, I suppose, and that just keeps you thinking. Blitz is such a factor in today's game if you do it right. Not everybody can do it, but wild game. Absolutely wild. Very, very entertaining weekend there. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this video, enjoyed the football. We got a lot more this season to go. We'll have you covered all the way through. Plenty of coverage, predictions, even more on the Twitter and Patreon. Link down below for that. If you could subscribe, it'd be much appreciated. Turn notifications on so you don't miss a thing. We're covering the trade deadline coming up here. We'll have halfway through the season player rankings, awards, and playoff predictions, things like that. So that's coming up probably after week 8 here. But we got you, basically. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.